Anime's genres are boundless, and it doesn't matter whether you're an insane jock or a degenerate or maybe not even a real person, there is a genre for everyone. Many of these genres are praised and some are looked down upon, and I mean really looked down upon, with seinen, shonen, and mystery all resting towards the top. Then you move towards the middle with the likes of slice of life, sports, and mecha. Then you get to the bottom where romance, horror, and even AI anime. And then under all that, under 100 piles of shit rom-coms, under 2,000 tons of VTuber merch, you get Isekai. And I'm here to convince you that it could be the best genre in anime. Yes, even better than AI anime. If you somehow manage to dodge Isekai through all your travels through the anime medium, here's a quick 10-second breakdown on every Isekai ever. Loser bum kid who has no friends gets hit by a truck and sent to a fantasy world where he becomes the strongest character in this new world and achieves a harem of all harems whilst beating the Demon King. Sorry, I just spoiled 427 series for you. That's a lot of Isekai. Now I know, Asuna Lover 443 is writing his comment, Isekai is so much better than you can imagine, hater. I actually got a real comment like this. But remember boys, this video is going to end with me telling you that Isekai is the greatest genre in anime, with the likes of Mushoku Tensei, ReZero, and Overlord among some of the most respected anime in the medium, proving that Isekai can be good. Those three have led to the creation of the weirdest dynamic you'll see in anime today. You see, with most anime and TV shows, fan reception is like a number line. You can have some people who love a show all the way to some people that hate it, and that is not the case with Isekai. You have three groups of people: the people that love Isekai, the people that think it's worse than brain rot, and then a third group: people that are ashamed to say they watch Isekai. I am the third group, and if you're unsure what group you're in, if you ever saw an anime with the title I got reincarnated as a dog and thought I should cosplay as a cat in another world, and thought to yourself, that sounds like something I should watch, you're probably also in the third group. But the reason why these three groups exist is also the same reason why it can surpass every other genre. But we'll get into that a bit later, because first you need to understand how it all started. And before we continue on this journey to purify the Isekai genre, we're gonna crank up the stakes a bit. If the pinned comment on this video doesn't get ratioed by another comment on this video, it means that Isekai is the GOAT, and my next video will be on ReZero. But if someone does ratio me with a comment of another anime's name, that is what my next video will be on. So now that the stage is set, let's get back to it. It is widely regarded that Mushoku Tensei and Sword Art Online are the two most important creations in Isekai becoming what it is today. Mushoku Tensei being touted the godfather of Isekai, introducing basically every single trope the genre knows, and Sword Art Online being an anime that took over with one of the coolest concepts we'd ever seen. And when I mean took over, this shit is the modern day equivalent of free run feet pics. It was inescapable. SAO was so heavily targeted at gamers and anime fans that for most people watching it was a dream come true, and this gamer Kirito even got a harem out of it, with one of them being his sister. Wait, what? But hey, at least it introduced some cool concepts, right? Wait, what is going on to the show? What has happened to the plot? Hey, at least we have Mushoku Tensei. That's gotta have an original story, right? Wait, what? Fat loser gets hit by a truck and sent to another world where he's gifted with magic and everyone loves him and he has a harem? Wait, that sounds like the anime I just described. Wait, hold on. Why does every Isekai protagonist look like Kirito? Hold up. What did you just say Rudis did? Yes, the two most popular and historically significant anime of the Isekai genre are not always anime you want to admit watching, and have some jarring issues that bleed into new Isekai and have been the origin of a lot of the negative as well as positive tropes. Except the thing is, the genre is not built from there, and it spiraled, leading into some of the worst girl debates, harems, and power fantasies you'll ever see. It's like, holy mother of God, some of the shit they put out is so unwatchable. And before we can redeem something, before we take Isekai to the confession booth, we need to get deep into the weeds of what makes Isekai so shit. So put your helmet on, strap in, and let's get to it. But before we do jump in, if you want to get Isekai into your dream world where you can be a tree, a rabbit, maybe even a car, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let's get back to it. Just as a general statement, most of the criticisms I'm about to bring on the Isekai genre do not apply to 5 or so anime that are voided from these, because these are actually pretty good. So an anime can be broken down into basically 5 parts: the world, the characters, the animation, the story, and then the fights. So how does the world of Isekai hold up? I mean, they should all be insane and great and perfect and creative. I mean, you can go anywhere, you can do anything. Why did he just transform into a vending machine? Like, come on, dude. You gotta understand, right? You gotta understand. Think about how much goes into making a story. You gotta have a creator, you gotta have editors, you gotta have publishers, a staff. Think, even the words right now I'm saying I have to script. How did no one stop the author and say, hey man, I know you're into vending machines, but this is the stupidest fucking idea you could have ever came up with. And this shit got a light novel too, and an anime, and a manga. Like, who thought this was the move? But we're gonna come back to this later, because even though I was joking around a little bit, I wasn't. Its creation is representative of something super dark that has changed media as a whole. Back to the worlds though, because sure, there are some that are better than others, but the reality is about 90% of them are just some Game of Thrones or Witcher 3-esque setting, a typical fantasy world with some magic thrown in, a demon lord, and yes, you will find outliers if you look enough, but for the most part, that's what all the settings are. Now, a large part of that will come from the fact that Mushoku Tensei is the most critically acclaimed of all isekai, so many of them just straight up copy and paste it and change it a little bit, except they're not changing anything for the better. Instead, they just change it and make things way worse. Take I got a cheat skill in another world, something. Basically, our protagonist gets transported into a fantasy world and lives near a forest, and he visits a kingdom once or twice to meet up with a king and a princess. Except, it's not like Mushoku Tensei, where these environments feel lived in, where it feels like this stuff matters. It's merely just where a character was, and you don't actually believe anything is going on in this world. You don't think it lives beyond the perspective we're granted. These lower quality isekai never take any risk showing off their city or adding any depth, and every time you watch an isekai, you're like, this could be reskinned into any city, any design, because it's purely cosmetic. The setting has nothing to do with the story, characters, or world. Half the fucking time, the kings don't even act like kings, the guards do nothing, and literally the civilians won't have eyes. What's frustrating, there is literally limitless possibilities, but jumping forward to my least favorite part about isekai, but sometimes it's my favorite part, it's the characters. Now, generalizing like this really does make no sense, because in most situations you're going to be able to find good or bad characters in any genre, except that's not the case in isekai, because there's about 4 central character types in every single isekai. The character that teaches the MC about the world, the female love interest, and then the other female love interest. And that's it. These 4 are literally the only characters of significance in any isekai, and you might be sitting there like, you forgot about the antagonist. No, I didn't forget nothing, because the antagonists literally do not matter, and the character development is completely thrown out the window. It's like the writers are sitting there like, everyone's watched Sword Art Online, so why don't we just take Kirito and put him into our story? Then we've won, because they already know who he is. We don't have to develop him. And the worst part is, Kirito isn't even that great of a character to begin with. And another type of MC I classify as the NPC MC. Stuff where they're all happy and jolly and make the right decisions every single time. It's like at that point, the writers are making it clear and obvious that they're scared to have conflict within the characters, and for whatever reason, they don't want their characters to grow. And it's time now to hone in on how isekai do female characters, because 95% of them completely disrespect them as characters, except Mushoku Tensei, which I have a whole video on. So what of the animation? I mean, Mushoku Tensei almost won Best Animation of the Year, only to fall flat to the greatest piece of media ever in Demon Slayer. That was a joke. Please do not dislike. And for isekai other than Mushoku Tensei, it's like okay. They all have that copy and paste style. Like, you know, the one you use when you're in real life and you can put on an anime filter? That's basically the art direction of every isekai. And I would imagine most of these come from budget problems, because I don't think it takes an Einstein to know that this doesn't look great and they don't want it to look like this. But to be fair, shitting on a genre for bad animation is kind of just whack, because every genre got some stuff that just looks like shit. So let's just jump over to the biggest issue, and that's the story, because all of them are trash. Like, oh my goodness, like I said earlier, not only are they all the same, but I legit think some of them prioritize fan service over everything else. Like, the writers got a long list of priorities, from girl moments, power fantasy moments, shitty jokes, and all the way down that list is a competent story. For example, the anime My Level 2 whatever, this is a fairly popular anime, and 3 episodes in, it's like, what's going on? Did we just forget to write some form of conflict? Half the time they just mention the Demon King here or there, but God forbid you actually show this supposed Demon King, much less develop the Demon King. Some of the stories we have, you're just sitting there like, my imagination would tell a more compelling story than whatever is being shown on screen right now. I think the issue lies in the fact that they're all trying to be everything. They're trying to mix in comedy, slice of life, action, fantasy, seinen, romance, and magic all into one story, while not developing any of their attributes. And we talked about it already, but the characters and the world and the plot just gets put on the back burner just so they can fit in all the stuff they know anime fans like. I'll talk about it a bit later, but they can turn this around into a strength. Trust me. Anyways, to wrap this section up, let's get to the fights. I don't think it takes a genius to know, considering everything I just said, the fights kind of suck, because you don't care about them and they don't look that good, and it's almost like the Sky writers are like, anime fans, they like fights, so let's just implement them every so often into the story. And it's like, bro, that's not how that works. We don't care if random main characters are fighting other random characters to save random female characters. It's just like, don't be clicking with any of us. And on top of all that, they can be in slow motion too, with the most generic folk music you'll ever hear in the background. And with that, I just dug isekai into the dirt, and I mean, I almost went a little bit too hard on them, a little bit extra. And I hear you, I see it, I know you've commented it. If isekai is so bad, why does it keep getting made, you idiot? Well, let's dig into that. Pretty much all isekai originate from light novels, instead just like manga is to anime. And if you thought read the manga bros are bad, the read the light novel bros are even worse. And to be fair, they were pretty nice to me on my past video, but I've seen them elsewhere, and dog, they be talking like it's two different properties, like they should be titled differently. I can't imagine the light novel of the vending machine anime makes it any better, but who knows, maybe they're right. But essentially through sales and consumption, it seems in Japan that these really crappy concepts just sell. And I don't think it's limited to anime, from shitty sitcoms to crappy dramas to K-dramas. There's some genres of media that we just like the concept enough that we'll consume it even knowing it's bad. I think this is part of why we watch, because despite shitting on the genre, part of the charm is just how bad they are. And also, let's be honest, some of them have insane titles that somehow draw your interest, and it's almost like a YouTube title and thumbnail draws your interest. When you see an entire anime centered around vending machines, I think it's hard to not be a little bit curious in some regard, and some of them are pretty clearly coming from a place of title first and going from there in order to draw attention to their anime or light novel. But at the same time, I wouldn't watch an anime about a vending machine, much less read a short little novel on it. Like, the math there is just not mathing. But how could isekai ascend to become better than all other genres and not be the heap of garbage it is, but a bombastic and bustling empire that will conquer anime for years to come? To start, we've already established the biggest issue in isekai is the repetitiveness of all the junk. And there's so many issues that can come from that. Stories are boundless. That is the very essence of what makes them great. Why would you choose to put yourself into a box for absolutely no reason at all? It almost makes you think the success of Mushoku Tensei and SAO almost put a limiter on what stories were being created, because all of them fell in line, but isekai has way more potential than any other genre. There's so many outcomes and combinations, and you can tap into every single aspect of what makes anime great. For example, you can have a slice of life isekai where someone dies and gets transported into this world where everyone has access to planet travel, but this character is dealing with PTSD from his job at McDonald's in the past life, so he's having a hard time making alien friends, so he keeps on bouncing from planet to find himself. How would you rather that? That sounds weird and interesting? Or another power fantasy? You could have another isekai where it's a mecha anime world, where it's like Game of Thrones meets Code Geass meets Power Rangers and creates a compelling story. Would you rather that? That sounds epic? Or another power fantasy? Or how about instead of an insane harem, we instead isekai them into a cyberpunky world, but instead of the perspective of gangsters, it's just normal people living their lives and trying to form relationships. Now that sounds kind of boring, but I still think it's better than a power fantasy. Maybe we can have an isekai where we stay in the real world for a long time. And I understand, I'm a YouTuber, I know you need to hook people in, I get it. So here's what you can do. You can open up a scene, the character dies, we spend an episode in this new world, you hook us into your show, and then boom, you give us a 3-episode run of the main character in their past life. And it's been sent to death. But all isekai at their heart can be redemption stories, but the issue is none of them, besides a select few, choose to hone in on what the MC actually is like in their past life. An even better idea that can make isekai even greater: why don't we not make it a redemption story, but instead make it so our main character is leaving behind something they truly care about? You see my point? No other genre has the amount of options that isekai does. The amount of overlap potential isekai has is unlike any other, and it mixes and flows so smooth. The genre has so many opportunities to grab you by the heart and just wow you with creativity, tell complex stories that make sense, but instead choose to tell the same repetitive tales over and over again. And I think one of the most frustrating realities comes from the fact that the most popular anime in the world, One Piece, does a lot of things that isekai can do just way better than isekai. You may be like, what are you talking about? In One Piece, you go island to island, and each island has a vastly different cast, a different story, different designs. It feels like every location is unique in its own world that lives beyond just the time we spend there with the cast, and it has some magic to it that isekai does not replicate in any capacity. Imagine a world where we could have hundreds of thousands of actually good isekai with unique main characters, unique stories, unique plot lines, and with there clearly being an unlimited amount of interest in the genre. With the proper writer, the stories could reach a whole nother level, and a hit isekai with a crazy premise with a studio like Wit, Bones, or Mappa behind them, you're looking at something that could take over the entire industry. So what's your favorite isekai? And if you enjoyed this video, check out this video on the best side character in anime. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget, we're just getting started, we're going to stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next video.